It's the start of the year. People like to set goals, but I think a lot of the goals that people set around guitar playing are not great goals. I want to tell you why and show you what I think are better goals that you can set for your guitar playing in 2025. I'm Matt. This is Guitar Nutrition. Let's get into it. I think the problem with a lot of goals that people set when it comes to their guitar playing is they put objectives around achieving specific things like learning this song or getting a scale down or something. They take an aspect of guitar playing and they say that I want to do this specific thing. That's really good if you have something to work towards that has a deadline. For example, you've got a performance coming up, or you have a recording session that you need to prepare for. Things like that, things that have a specific deadline, that's fine because then you're working towards something that has a specific deadline and it matters that you get it done by that point in time. But for a lot of people when they're learning, there isn't a specific deadline. They're just learning guitar. Guitar is something that we never stop learning. We're doing it for life. We do it because we enjoy it, the process. And when we're doing something that doesn't have a specific end point, putting specific endpoints just because we need to go, I don't find helpful. My experience with this has been that I actually just end up beating myself up because life happens. I get busy. I don't have time to practice as much as I would have liked. And when I say, oh, I need to achieve this thing by this date, said who? Like, nothing's going to happen if I don't achieve this thing by this day. And there might have been legitimate reasons why I wasn't able to do that. It doesn't matter. Let me suggest that there's a better way to kind of set goals around your guitar playing that doesn't require you to have specific deadlines in terms of stuff that must be done by this date. It's the idea that we should set goals around consistency, not around achieving specific things. Let me explain. Here are a couple of guidelines that I find helpful for achieving consistency in your practice. Guideline number 1. We don't take off more than 2 days in a row for any aspect of our practice. So say, for example, we might be working on chords, we might be working on scales, and we might be working on pieces. I don't know. Maybe one day you practice your chords and you practice your scales, but actually you don't have time to work on your pieces. The next day, you just don't have time to do anything. So, okay, that's fine. But now you've missed 2 days of your pieces and only 1 day of your chords and scales, but you've missed 2 days of your pieces. So that means that the next day you absolutely have to work on your pieces. You prioritize those first. And if you miss your chords and scales, well, that's fine. You've missed 2 days of those now, so you got to do them the next day. But it's the idea that we don't miss more than 2 days in a row for any aspect of our practice. The second guideline is that we aim to practice each aspect of our practice at least 4 times a week. Now, this doesn't mean we only have to practice it 4 times a week. If you want to practice every day, that's great. That's probably ideal. But we're aiming for at least 4 times a week. That means that we can't practice 1 day, skip 2 days, practice another day, skip 2 days, then practice another day, because now we've only practiced 3 times in a week. So I think these 2 guidelines, don't miss more than 2 days in a row, and aim to practice 4 times a week, are really, really great ways to help you achieve consistency. The goal that works really well for this kind of practice approach is to say, what percentage of days do you want to have practice throughout the year? Do you want to aim for 75%? Well, that's good. We're probably not going to hit 100%, so that's probably an unrealistic goal. But maybe you aim for 75% of days practiced. Maybe you aim for 80%. If you have an amount of practice you want to do in terms of a percentage of days practiced, and you have these 2 guidelines, don't miss more than 2 days in a row, aim for 4 days a week, then we have a system that promotes consistency in our practice, and that I think is achievable, and that doesn't require you to kind of aim for a specific deadline for something that doesn't really matter. The other thing that I think is nice about this is, say we're practicing chords, scales, and pieces. These are general areas of practice. Within that, we might be working on a specific piece. We finish working on that, so we sub in a new piece. Or like we've been working on triads, for example, but now we've got those down, so we move on to practicing drop 2 chords. When we practice this way, the things or the substance of what we're practicing can change. That's fine. What we're doing instead is aiming for consistency. And these guidelines, these aren't fixed in stone either. You know, if you miss an entire week because stuff came up or you went on a family holiday, you haven't failed. The guidelines are just there to help you achieve consistency. The extent to which you achieve your goal is measured at the end of the year when you check to see whether you've done 75% of days practiced. This is how I'm thinking about practicing this year. I haven't decided whether I want to put it on a spreadsheet yet. I thought it might be interesting to put it on a spreadsheet and actually track the percentage of days practiced. I might do that. I might not. I don't know. Some people really like tracking stuff with data, and if that's you, great. Then you probably would really enjoy putting this on a spreadsheet. But even if you don't want to kind of get really intense about tracking and aiming for 75% days practiced or whatever it is you decide, even if you don't want to do that, I think the two guidelines of don't miss more than 2 days in a row and aim for 4 days a week practice, I think those are really, really good ways to achieve consistency in your practice. And by the way, that's not the only guitar you need to play. I think when we come up with a practice regime, I guess, the practice routine is what we want those two goals to follow. But you can still play whatever you like when it comes to guitar. So let me know in the comments how you tend to structure your practice. And if you think it would be helpful to go over some specific examples of what it might look like to create a practice routine that's following these ideas, let me know. Now, YouTube thinks you might enjoy this video. Otherwise, go play some guitar following those two guidelines. And I'll see you next time.